All right, we're live. We're live, live, live. So I'm going to wait for a few people to jump on board. So as always, man, if you're jumping on, tell me where you're from, man. That's what I like to hear. I'd like to see, rather. So tell me where you're from, man. Just type it in, what country you're from. That's always cool to know. So go ahead and do that. Like I said, we'll wait a few minutes. If you watch this not live and you watch the recorded version, I suggest you just skip ahead to maybe the 3-minute mark. That's probably when I'll get started. So I'll just wait a few minutes so like that you don't get irritated waiting if you're that impatient. Isn't that funny though how impatient we are? Everything isn't fast enough. You know what I mean? I saw somebody complaining about putting something in the microwave, saying, why can't it cook faster? And when you say to a microwave, why doesn't it cook faster? I mean, it's as fast as you're going to get it. So it's amazing how we become an impatient society. So like I said, I'll wait for people to jump on board. And today, this topic is going to be one about really, how do you become memorable? And so we'll talk about what that is. And so I have, oh man, let me see what I have here. Man, Texas in the house. I love it, man. I love it, man. Way to go, man. All right, let me see what I got here. I'm pulling you guys in little by little. I'm from Colombia, but I currently live in Miami. Elkin, I won't hold that against you, brother. I used to live in Miami for 5 years. I'm just messing with you, man. Let's see who we have here. We got Casablanca. Is that like Morocco? Where's that at? I'm so ignorant. I know it's a Humphrey Bogart movie, so tell me where's that, Adil. And then my friends from the UAE, man, I always love that. United Arab Emirates. Oh, man. Atlanta, hometown. Oh, man, you're Captain Kirk. You're right around the corner, man. It's going to rain, like big time. So let me see what else we got going on here. Loving your super content master. Oh, thank you, man. So thank you. Who else is in here? Like I said, look at this. I love this person already. Dubai boss. I love it. So again, let's see who else. We got India. India never fails me. Deepak. Always from India, man. What time is it over there, Deepak? I don't know. So let me see. Arizona in the house right here. Boom. A Boricua in Arizona. In case you want to know what a Boricua is, that's another word we use for Puerto Rican. So that means there's a Puerto Rican in Arizona somewhere. Alexandra Lee. ¿Cómo estás? And let me see what we got here. And before we get into it, Vegas, baby. Is Vegas like totally shut down at this point? Interesting. The sure. Love the names, man. All right, man. We're gonna get started, like I said, in a little bit here. If you're watching this on the replay, man, again, just jump ahead. Nigeria, man. Right now, you're holding I think the distance in terms of farthest away, man. So thank you for joining me. Appreciate it, because I know it's got to be early in the morning there, man. I think you're about maybe 8 hours ahead of time, 8 hours ahead of New York time. So it's something like that. So then right here we got Deepak. You're at 5:30 a.m. You're a hustler, man. Officially a hustler. I like getting up in the morning also, man. For some reason, the first couple hours for me, I can get a lot done, man. All right, man. I think we've waited a few minutes already. 2 minutes. Let's get into this. And I got to see what my man said. It's starting to open up in Vegas, right? That's what I hear, man. I think here in Atlanta, we've pretty much started to loosen everything up. I think we're ahead of the curve. California, a little behind the curve. So we'll see how that goes. Sorry, man. I mean, Idris says, you zapped my comment. Dude, I didn't mean to zap your comment, okay? I'm starting to get used to this new software. So if I zapped it, I'm sorry. Big up, man. So put it back in there. I'll put it back in. Boom. I think it goes back in, man. So very cool, man. Anyway, so what I want to do is I want to jump into this. And if I zapped it, by the way, if I zapped it, I apologize. What I want to do is jump into this and really talk about, one of the questions I'm getting today is how do you become memorable? Even when you're leaving a voicemail or whether you're doing a presentation or whether you're doing a Zoom presentation, is how do you become memorable, right? And so, as you know, I like to use models. So I'm going to use some models here that you can use. And then let's talk about how you can become more memorable in a presentation or even when you leave a voicemail. So let's begin with the science, as they say. I've pointed out in the past, for those of you who've read or kept up with my material, there's something called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. The Ebbinghaus forgetting curve basically says that our memory basically decays at a very rapid rate. So this is your memory retention, right? What you're able to retain in memory over time. And so basically we lose a lot of content. Some people put the number, you lose 75% of the information within 24 hours. So think about that for a second. Within 24 hours, people have forgotten 75% of the information that you've already delivered. So if you do a presentation, again, whether it's eventually face-to-face again or video, most people are going to forget because they have other priorities, and immediately as soon as they get off the phone, they're going to forget the majority of the information. And again, depending on which study you believe, if you wait, 15 to 30 days, people could forget up to 90% of what they've actually learned. So that's kind of depressing that within 15 to 30 days, people can, forget 90%. And so, but for us in sales, our biggest concern is that after we do a presentation, I think the first 48 hours, I hate to use that phrase, that number, but there it is. I think the first 48 hours are critical. In other words, we want to be in that person's mind, in that client's mind for the next 48 hours. And the sooner they can make a decision, the better. You know that if it goes beyond 48 hours, maybe 72 hours, that's 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, the longer it goes on, the less likely they are to move forward with whatever you're promoting. So keep this in mind, that people forget, which means that if we want them to remember us, we have to be memorable. So let's be strategic. As opposed to just going in there and doing our presentation, let's kind of just step back a little bit and let's plan out, how do we want to be memorable? We're going to ask the key question. And the key question is going to be, if I were to ask you right now, think about this for a second. If I were to ask you right now, you're going to do a presentation to me. I'm the CEO of blah, blah company, right? And you're going to do a presentation. Again, video, face-to-face, doesn't matter. And if I were to ask you right now, I want you to think about this. And if you have the answer, I want you to write 1. Now, if I asked you right now to give me 3 things you want me to remember at the end of the meeting, could you write them down very quickly right now? Put 1 if you can do it, 0 if you can't. What are 3 things you want me to remember at the end of the presentation? At the end of my 15, 20-minute, 30-minute presentation, 45-minute presentation, what do you want me to remember? Do you have that? Give me a 1, and be honest here. Be honest. If you have a 1, if you have it. If you don't, just put a 0. Or if you don't reply, I assume you don't have it. But if you do have it, 3 things you want me to remember at the end of the meeting, then we begin there. Then you have it. So let's begin there. Let's pretend for a moment that this is where we're going to begin the presentation. Point A is where we begin the presentation. We know that we want to land at point, I'll call it point Z. That's where we're going to finish our presentation. Okay? Start here, finish there. And let's say that the gap in time between these two, let's say it's a 30-minute presentation. Okay? It's a 30-minute presentation, right? 30-minute presentation. My question to you is, what do you want the customer to remember? Now, it's a trick question. Listen carefully. There's a trick question here. It's not what you want the customer to remember so much so as it is what you want the customer to remember that's going to benefit them. Not what you want them to remember about your product or your service, but how you tie it that it benefits them. See, a lot of people do a presentation at the end. They have 3 things that they want the customer to remember. We can do this, we can do this, we can do this. But beyond that, I'm pushing you harder. Beyond that is, what are the 3 things that are going to benefit them? Keep this in mind. Just bear with me. I'm building this out for you. So we start here with the presentation. We're going to go to here. So in fact, we're going to rush over here. We're going to run over here. Now, keep in mind that once we finish, there's 3 things I want the customer to remember. Now, if you follow my material, you know I talk about the value trinity, right? And the value trinity is this. If I can help a customer, and I'm talking about a B2B scenario, increase revenue, reduce costs, or expand market share. These are 3 key things. If I can tie my features, my services, my benefits to increase revenue, reduce costs, or expand market share, then I'm providing quantifiable value, like straight up value, right? So have that in mind. So let me back up because I get too excited sometimes about this stuff, because this is, once you get it, it's like you get it. You know what I mean? It's like you understand the brain, right? That's why I always talk about finding the why and how people buy, because once you understand it, you get it. So number 1, I told you already that people tend to forget a lot of the information. So we know that already. It's a weakness of the brain, right? So we know that we have to be memorable. Great. Going into the presentation, we know that we're going to have about 30 minutes. Could be 45, could be an hour. Who cares? 30 minutes. Now, we also know that we have to make sure that we land at this point. When we land there are 3 things. 3 things we want them to remember. 3 things, just 3 things, right? Because beyond 3, they're going to start forgetting things. But 3 things becomes very memorable. It's a magic number. So now, if you buy believe what I am telling you right now, then if we can tie these three things into increase revenue, reduce costs, or expand market share, then I think we have a good plan. So let me clear this out. Let me clear it out, okay? So now we're going to start our presentation here at A. We're going to run all the way to Z, which is the end of the presentation, in 30 minutes. Now, what are the three things you want them to remember? That's one. So we want them to remember 1, 2, 3 things. Now, notice that I'm asking you to think about when you're building your presentation, don't start from the front, start from the back, where you want to land. We call this sticking the landing, right? This is where you want to land, right? So if we know the top 3 things we want them to remember, all we have to do is make sure they remember these 3 things, right? They're going to remember 3 things, but you want to tie them to increase revenue, reduce costs, or expand market share. Increase revenue, reduce costs, expand market share. You get it? Increase revenue, reduce costs, expand market share. So I'm going to look at 3 things. And watch how easy this is. Once I show you how to do this, it's going to be magical for you. I'm telling you, your presentations will change. So let's go slowly. I'm selling, and I always like to use a SaaS product, right? Software as a service. It's a software platform I'm trying to sell. Some sophisticated CRM system, I don't know, right? And I know that when I land here, I have to give them something memorable. But that memorability, what they remember, has to be of value to them. Increase revenue, reduce costs, expand market share. Just bear with me. Just hang in there, man. This is going to get good. So let's say that I write out these numbers. What if I just write out 15, 30, 60, right? 15, 30, 60. That's all I'm going to write out, right? Now, if I were to introduce this as a slide right here, Mr. Customer, at the end of the presentation, all I want you to do is remember this sequence of numbers right here. Now, I'm going to say that at the beginning of the presentation because I know where I'm going to land. I'm going to land right there. But what if I prime your brain? I condition your brain to say, Mr. Customer, before I start the presentation, here's the one thing I want you to remember. I just want you to remember this sequence of numbers, 15, 30, and 60. Now, when you do that to a person or an audience, right, this is called the Zargonic effect. The Zargonic effect is a psychological effect that it feels when something's incomplete, it creates this tension of the brain that maintains your attention. It creates tension to maintain attention. For example, you ever watch a movie and just as they're getting to the good part, they cut to commercial. Does that ever happen? We've all seen that, right? That's kind of a Zargonic effect. It builds the tension and then it just leaves you hanging. You're like, whoa, well, what happened? What happened? Now you're going to sit through the commercial for them to come back so you can actually watch it. This is almost the same thing. You're setting this up. It's almost like a teaser. Just remember, 15, 30, 60. And the customer going, what the hell does that mean? And you'll say, by the end of this presentation, you will understand why those 3 numbers are significant to your business. I mean, if you said something like that, hell, that's drama at the beginning of a presentation. Now, I always get this question, Victor, do you really do that? And the answer is yes. You have to understand that part of your job is in presenting, whether you're presenting a keynote, whether it's a sales presentation, whether it's a one-on-one. This stuff works if you can create, and I hate to use the word drama, but you got to create some drama in your presentation. Remember, a presentation is simply a story. And the story's going to take them somewhere. It's transportation. It's going to take them somewhere on a journey. So what you're saying is you're teeing them up with this. You're conditioning, and when you give them these 3 numbers, they go, what does that mean? He says, by the end of the presentation, you'll see how these numbers apply to your business and how we could help you. Wow, how these numbers apply to your business and how we can help you. Now, come on, that's a setup right there. That's like putting the golf ball on the tee, and all you got to do is whack it and hit it off the tee. So now that you've set this up, you know that that's where you're going to land, right? These 3 numbers, you're going to land right here. So now, let me do the reveal, right? Now let me give you the answer. What do those numbers mean? What if, and I'm going to write it in bigger letters right here. What if those numbers meant, if you buy our software package, that one right there, if you buy our software package, and again, you're going to build your pitch towards this, we're going to guarantee, we can commit to a 15% increase in what? Revenue, right? And then you're going to say, You'll also, because of the efficiency, we've been seeing 30% reduction in cost. That means you've increased what? That's profitability right there. That's profit right there. And then typically we see these results and you say 60 days. And that's when you give them a time frame. Now, imagine for a moment that that's where you land. That's at the end of this, what you want them to remember is everything about your software package, but you also want to repeat those numbers, 15, 30, 60, 15, 30, 60. Typically, people who implement our application, replace it with a blah, 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 and use our application will typically see a 15% increase in revenue, a 30% reduction in cost, and you'll see this within 60 days. Now, that's memorable. That's easy to memorize. Now, these numbers could be based on case studies you've already done. They don't have to be this pretty, the numbers. In other words, 15 to 30 to 60, I doubled them basically. They don't have to be that neat. They could be, whatever. This could be 14, this could be 28, whatever it may be. Come up with numbers that you're comfortable with. The point is, you're giving somebody a memory device. Now, why is this important? Again, let's go back to the first one. People are gonna forget you. They're gonna forget you. But if you can condition them to remember those three numbers, they're not gonna forget you. Which means that if this is one of those products, and it probably is, longer sales cycle, where it has to be evaluated by a lot of people, this is what you want them to take away. Also keep in mind, many times, the decision makers are not in that room. Decision makers are not in the room. So you have your champion, right? Somebody who's there, who likes your product, likes your company, and now they say to you, Victor, we're going to take this back to our management and we're going to discuss it with them. And you say, great. Now, if you just did a regular presentation, what are they going to take back? They're not going to be able to explain what you gave them. So if you gave them a full presentation, they're not going to be able to explain it to their boss, their manager, their CEO, the CMO, the CXO, whatever it may be. But if you present your product and you give them a simple memory tool, 15, 30, 60, they can actually take that content to their boss and says, look, I met with Victor and they got the software platform, the SaaS platform, and basically what we're looking at is a 15% increase in revenue, 30% reduction in cost, and they can do this within 60 days. That's what they promise. How easy is that sales pitch from the manager to the CEO? Very easy. So see what you're doing. You're doing two things. One is you're training the manager on what to say, right? You're trying to sell the manager at this level, the mid-manager. But you're also training that manager, to sell upward, to sell to his management or his committee, his team. And this process works. So what you have to do is plan out, where do I want to land? When I finish my presentation, what is the ask? Now, you're going to try to close the deal here, of course. But I'm saying, in some cases, you're not going to be able to do that. If you look at B2B, the recent study that was shown for B2B, if you look at B2B sales, today, on average, there are like almost 9 decision makers involved in the buying process. 9 decision makers. The latest ones that are jumping in are lawyers, right? Lawyers, chief information officers, maybe there's a chief data scientist somewhere. So now more people, because of data security, cybersecurity, more people are jumping into the mix when making a buying decision, especially when it comes to software and data collection. So more people are being involved in the buying cycle. And so it's hard. It's hard to sell to 9 people, right? We can talk about it during another presentation, but it's hard to sell to 9 people. So typically what you have to do is you got to find your champion, right? The person that's going to say, da, 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 I'll take your message forward. But you have to program that champion with a clear message in terms of what you want them to sell upward. Now, the benefit to you as a salesperson is that if you're selling, you're going to be able to what? Articulate this message. Imagine if you're a manager and you have to train salespeople to give a presentation. Why not start with the end in mind? What if I trained all my salespeople to land right here? This is what we want them to remember. This is the story that we can increase revenue, reduce costs, and do it within a certain period of time. That's a powerful presentation. So on that note, if we can keep it simple, we'll be more effective. But this is a big key here, is that you can't sell to everybody. It's hard to, look, it's hard enough to get a meeting with one person. Imagine trying to get 9 people involved. Very hard, very difficult to do. But if you can find that champion, if you can find that one right there, your champ, and you can teach this champ how to talk on your behalf, how to speak on your behalf when you're not there. Because again, when you walk out of the room, the majority of people are going to forget what you said. But if you can make your message memorable, short, sweet, I think you'll have a better chance of success. And that is what I wanted to share with you today. I'll take some questions because I see you guys popping questions here. So I don't have anything else to present. So if you want to leave, thank you for joining me. If you want to hang out, I'm going to just do some comments right now. And if you want to hang out for comments, hang out. I might answer some questions. If they're not long, I'll try to answer them. And we'll go from there. So let me see what I got here. I'm just going to pull something. Let's see what I got. I better pull this one here. Let me see what this one is. Oh, see, I didn't delete this one, right? We sell our services since 15 years, and we help companies increase 30%, and we work for 60. You had to finish that one. You work for 60 what? But I love what you're saying, right? You're trying to give them something memorable. So I love that. I like that, man. I like that a lot. Okay, so let me see what else. Let me pull another comment here. Perfect. You train your champions to deliver your call. That is it. We train our champions. That's what we need to do. Train the champs. All right. Let me see. Let's pull this one right here. Find your champion. Not only find your champion, condition your champion to take your message like your battle standard. Remember 300? Carry my battle standards, right? So that's what you want. You want them to wave that flag. That flag is going to read 15, 30, 60. Let's take it in there. That's what you really want. So what else we got down here? Let me see. The learning was valuable. Deepak, thank you, because I know you got up early for this one, brother. I know you got up early for this one. Let me see what else you got. We'll implement this today. It'll be interesting, man. Give me some feedback. Just leave it on the chat. And I know I missed some comments way up here. There's some long ones up here. Let me see this one right here. I think I got this one already. Hi, Victor. I run a sales team that sells home furnishing products. What advice can you give me during this pandemic crisis? Oh, I knew that was coming my way. Ahmed, I'm not running from you, man. I'm going to answer this question. In fact, I'm going to take some time with this question. It's a big question. So, Ahmed, tell me where you're from, Ahmed. Just type that in. Not that it matters. I just like to know. Ahmed, so I've been working with several different companies in the virtual space because people have had to shift their business during this pandemic, right? And so, in fact, I spoke to the International Home Furnishing Retail Association, right? I'm sure it's called IFRA. It's an organization that sells furniture, and people are finding different ways to go online and sell virtually. One of the most creative I've seen, one of the most creative approaches I've seen is, I won't tell you the company's name, because it's a big company, and they sell windows. And so what they've done is they created a virtual room, right, a showroom. And so what they've done is that they use, have you seen that, what's the name of that unit? It's by Facebook. It's like portable TV or something, and you put it on top of your television, and it has a camera that follows you, right? And so what they've done is they installed a big TV, like the one I have right in front of me right now, with the camera, the portable TV camera from Facebook, which it's hard to get today because they're pretty much sold out. And what that camera does is that it follows you around. So part of their process, Ahmed, is they basically looked at their end-to-end sales process. Everything was done, obviously, people coming to the storefront. So what they've done in the case of windows, and even roofing companies have done this, pool companies have done this, car companies have done this, car dealerships have done this. They set up a showroom, and what they now do is that they get the client, right? A lot of marketing going online, a lot of promotion to do some lead generation. They get the actual customer online with them, and they connect with the virtual assistant or consultant, and they do a three-way call. Salesperson, you the potential client, virtual consultant. The virtual consultant is by themselves in the showroom, and what they do is they take over the conversation and actually start presenting the different products. This will shock you. Their sales, their average ticket price has gone up. Yes, has gone up. I work with a lot of companies in the pool industry. Believe it or not, people are buying pools virtually. In fact, some companies have to stop advertising because they're overwhelmed with the amount of business they're getting. One last example, if you really want to see somebody who does it right, look at CarMax. CarMax is selling cars throughout, basically, virtually. People just go there to actually pick up the car. There's a company called, you may want to Google this one, it's called Paragon Honda, who have sold, I think in the last month or so, they sold 255 cars 100% online. They sold cars online. So they figured out that they have something called omni-channel, right? Omni-channel is face-to-face, but they're also developing a virtual channel. So I want to take a little time with this one because this is important. That's a great question, Ahmed. The question is, how do you create a virtual scenario where people can actually buy virtually? That's going to be your toughest challenge. So hopefully that answered your question. Let me see what I got here. Okay, I got that one already. Love it. Let me see. I got one more from my man here. Okay, I got that one already. I think I got most of them, man. I got a lot of thumbs up. Oh, there they are. I didn't scroll down far enough. There you go. Let's see what this one says. Hi, Victor from Houston. How to apply B2C when customer gives a coronavirus objection? Roland, that's not specific enough. I don't know if I can help you because, unless there's, I don't know what to do with that one. I need more information because if, right now, let's kind of really be realistic about this. There's 3 types of people, and I think I talked about this in my last one, or maybe one of my other presentations. So, Roland, keep this in mind. There are 3 types of buyers in the market now. We all heard of fight or flight, right? There's fight, there's flight, right? The people who are in the fight mode, these people are going to spend, right? They're out there, they're still spending, they're still investing. The people in this mode, the flight mode, they're scared. They don't want to buy anything. In fact, they're downsizing, trying to save money, doing whatever they can. The third group, which many of us don't think about, is the freeze mode, right? Freeze means they just stay status quo. Status quo, that means, Roland, they don't want to do anything. They're just waiting. So I think here and here we can see some opportunities. And these are the 2 types of clients we have to target. So depending on what products you're offering, all I can say is, it depends on the product, and if they're giving you a coronavirus, objection, I need more information to actually deal with that one. And let me see this right here. Let me take that off the screen. It will be fun to make specific for different industries. Of course, yeah. You can really apply this to different industries. You can really have fun with this presentation. The great thing, Herb, about this approach, if you like this presentation about having 3 things to say at the end, is that it allows you to almost like reverse engineer your presentation. If you know where you want to land, where you want to stick the landing, which is the 3 objectives here, you know how to then reverse engineer your presentation to get to that point. So, excellent point, man. Excellent point. So, Deepak, Shirley, gotcha. Roland, like I said, I'm sorry I couldn't give you more of an answer there. Let's go with Terry Lucas. Good question because I sell home furnishing too. Wouldn't that be great, Terry, if you can kind of do this, set up a showroom? So maybe one of the things, if you do have a physical location, maybe now's the time to have the conversation about why don't we have, look, cameras are cheap, televisions are cheap. You can set up a virtual, showroom. One of the things that Terry, I think you'll like this. One of the things that the folks from and I want to say it's the National Automotive Dealer Association, NADA, as in nothing, right? NADA. One of the things they highlighted was that in today's market, this is interesting. In today's market, you should view your website as your showroom. Okay, your website is not a website anymore. It is a showroom in this market. You should view your salespeople as virtual consultants. So when somebody jumps online, starts looking at some of the products on your webpage, maybe some of the things you can start doing is detect, if somebody stays on there for, let's say, 2 minutes, right? Maybe you can use a chat bot to actually engage the customer, or maybe you can jump on live, because if they stayed there 2 minutes or they looked at so many different pages, all of a sudden this means that they're interested. So maybe this is a point of engagement through your website. Remember, the website is a showroom. And if you can now not view yourself so much as a salesperson, but as a virtual consultant to help guide them through the website, show them things, and maybe then get them to go live with you into your into your live showroom, that's even better. And then again, the last part is that your physical store today in this environment should be viewed as your delivery point, either to deliver or pick up whatever they're buying. So think about that. It's a mind shift that your website is now your showroom. And then your job is not to sell, but to guide them once they're on your website, help them make buying decisions. So it's a very, very interesting way of looking at that. So let me see a couple more, and then I'll start winding it down. Please place this video on YouTube channel as I came in late. Eric Klein, my man, it will be under the live tab. That's where you'll find it. So let me see what else we got here. I'm just picking things at random here. Thank you. Watched all your videos, plus read your books. Oh, you're awesome, Ahmed. And if you haven't joined the Sales Velocity Academy, you should. Okay. Let me see what we got here. What's the best way to train your sales team to find those 3 key messages? What a great question. I think that's really between, not so much the sales team. We always put the weight on the sales team, which I do love, Teresa, but marketing has some responsibility here also, because what you're starting to see in the market today is this beautiful hand-in-glove relationship with marketing and sales. In fact, I would say that in the past, sales was always dominant, right? I think in the last, let's say 10, maybe 15 years ago, you started seeing that shift in balance. And maybe over the last 5 years, you started seeing this. But I'm totally convinced that sales now has to take a backseat to marketing. What do I mean by that? Remember, people go online, Teresa, and they're looking for information. The study done by Google, which I often refer to, is called the ZMOT study, Zero Moment of Truth study, which says people go online, they look at 10 sources of information. Now, when they're looking at those 10 sources of information, they're forming their preferences of what they want, what they like, what they don't like, right? So, but who's generating those messages? Marketing. See, marketing is doing all the preconditioning because they're putting all these great messages online. You often hear the phrase voice of the customer. Voice of the customer is what the customer wants to hear. So what are your 3 key messages? It depends on the product. Remember, if it's B2B, it's always about increasing revenue, reducing costs, or expanding market share. If it's B2C, it's usually something that you're helping them with physically, financially, or psychologically. So I always say that's the second value trinity. So B2B value trinity, help them increase revenue, reduce costs, expand market share. If you're selling a B2B product like supplements or something healthy or whatever, or coaching, then you got to worry about how do you help them physically, how can you help them financially, and how can you help them psychologically. And then begin to craft your messages around those, depending on which, if you're B2B or B2C. And there's a little overlap, but in general, that's where I would begin. Great question. And I'll take one more, and then we are out of here. All right, Las Vegas in the house. All right, the Punisher. Whenever other people have to get into the decision, it gets a lot harder. The least amount of people who the decision is better. I sell aircraft, and when the accountant gets involved, I know. By the way, there's actually Punisher. There's actually a graph that shows that if it goes like something like this, like your win rate, if like 1 or 2 people are involved, your win rate is like this. It's like pretty much right here. As soon as you get to 3 or 4 people, it just drops like that. By 5, you're in the hole already. And so I'm with you on that. The more, and then you're selling aircrafts. I used to work for the government years ago for Honeywell. And so selling that stuff to the government, that's really hard. But the upside is once you're in, Punisher. You know that. So cool. Great question. Let me just take a few more. I'm hosting a virtual makeup tutorial Sunday for work. Fingers crossed. I'm excited. Go for it, girlfriend. Do it. There you go. I love the fact that you're doing something. Not talking about you're actually going out and do it. Well, I think I got one more. This is it for sure. Whatever this is the last one. Could you use this strategy in a B2C initial phone call? In a B2C initial phone call, the answer is absolutely yes. Again, remember, B2C, tied to something. If you're selling a product, how does it help them physically? How does it help them financially? How does it help them psychologically? And I'll give you is it Andron? Antron. Did I get that right, Matt? Antron. So if I got it wrong, sorry. I'll just call you Woody. Right? AW. So AW, one of the things to consider is that you can use this in B2C. And so whatever product, let's say you're selling a coaching service, right? And let's say that somebody's, I'm being very general here. Let's say that you're a career coach, right? You're helping people with their career, or it could be a performance coach, right? It's just helping them get better. The question is, how can you tie that to, and I'll give you again the 3, right? If you're doing this, how can that help them? How can you help them physically, psychologically, or financially, right? Those are the 3 things I would be thinking about. Let me move this out of the way here so you can see that, right? Those are the 3 things I'd be thinking about. Now you're probably saying, well, how can I tie coaching services to any of those 3? Well, think about it. I always tell people that anything can be quantified. You can quantify anything if you really just look for the numbers. So let's say you're a performance coach, which is a very soft product to sell, right? Not tangible, very soft product to sell. you're selling these coaching services. So now you're talking to somebody and you're trying to convince them to take you on as their coach, right? You want to be their coach, and they're saying, well, how's this going to help me? Now, keep in mind these three things all the time. Can your product help them physically? I think it does. Again, we're talking about coaching service, performance coaching. Can it help them psychologically? I know you can. How can you help them financially? I know you can. So I would take this general approach. Now, I'm going to be very general, and then maybe I'll do another YouTube live where we can talk about this one. But if I'm selling coaching services, performance, the first thing I'm going to do is convince them that, look, being a high performer can actually help you financially, because if right now you're not motivated and you're operating at 40 to 60%, I would ask the person, what do you think you're operating? 40, 60%, where you at? Imagine if we can just fill in the gap by 40% more. And if you start operating at 100% more, would you get more? Would you put in more effort, and would you get more done? The answer is probably yes. And because you're getting more done, let's say you're working for a company, guess what? You're going to get promoted, right? Because that's what they're looking for, champions, people who move. So that promotion is going to give you what? More money. Would you also agree, because you're making more money and you're more financially stable, that's going to help you, well, rather here, that's going to help you psychologically. The person's going to say, absolutely. And you also believe that psychologically, if you think well and you're in a good state of mind, indirectly, less stress will help you physically. That's how we can help you as a performance coach. I'm being very general, but, Andron, you get the idea, right? That's it. All right. I think that's it for now. Again, my only ask is, well, two asks. One is, if you're not part of Sales Velocity Academy, check it out. I think you'll love it. And again, you can cancel anytime, but I think you'll love the content in there. Full-blown courses, 50 courses with over 500 videos. The second thing I ask you, this one's easier. Share this video with just one person. Let them know that this is going on and we're having fun. And I'm going to try to do these every Monday at 8 o'clock. I hope you'll join me again. Take care, people. Later.